Alien Isolation was released all the way back in 2014, and it's taken me this long to play it because I'm just that terrified of horror games. I love the original 1979 film, and as much as the internet tells me I probably shouldn't, I really enjoy the films that followed too. So after yet another rewatch of the film that started it all, I came across Alien Isolation sitting in my Steam library, dust covered and abandoned from a time that I obviously thought I was brave enough to play it. Well, I was feeling brave again, and it had been too long since I pushed myself through a horror game, so I reinstalled it, and after about 20 hours, I completed it, and I'm here now to tell you what I thought. The first thing that struck me when loading up Alien Isolation is the jaw-dropping art style. The environments are dripping with that retro 70s sci-fi feeling that made the Nostromo from the first film so iconic. The rooms are claustrophobic. There are hundreds of low-res CRT-style monitors with chunky keyboards and tactile buttons. The corridors are lined with that strange padding we all recognise. The game is very loyal to the environment of the original film, and everything feels functional and lived in despite the circumstances of the game. We probably have Ron Cobb and H.R. Geiger to thank for that, but I'm pleasantly surprised to see how well they pulled this off in the game. The other thing that blew me away was the sound design. The game builds so much of its atmosphere using its sound design, and boy does it pay off. The depth of sound in this game is incredible. There are distant ambient sounds of the space station kind of doing its thing, pipes groaning and hissing, metal creaking and machinery whirring. A lot of these sounds, however, are specifically designed to give you hints and clues as to what's going on around you. Nearby save machines will beep rhythmically, doors hiss and click when opened, humanoids talk to each other and themselves, and then there's the xenomorph itself, which will clamber around inside the overhead vents, stomp on hard metal flooring, hiss, gurgle and growl when it's close by. There's also the unmistakable ping of the iconic motion sensor from the films that serves its ultimate purpose as a tension building tool here very well. The musical score is also wonderfully baked into the layers of sound too, with tracks ranging from low droning to sharp violins and plucking strings that really set the tone. I did run into some places where a sound cue here or there would feel very mismatched. I don't know if I was just missing something I was supposed to have seen, such as the stinger that plays very loudly when the xenomorph kills a human target that I think was too far away from me, or that I couldn't see at least, but it didn't detract too much from the experience. On that note, the AI of the xenomorph is worth talking about. It should be no spoiler by now that you will be hunted by the xenomorph for a significant portion of this game. It will crawl through vents, attempt to lay ambushes, stalk through rooms looking for you. The behaviour feels calculated and unpredictable, and this kind of makes sense, as besides a couple of small sections, the xenomorph's AI is entirely unscripted. Instead, the xenomorph uses an AI system similar to the Director AI made famous by Left 4 Dead. The Director will give the xenomorph occasional hints as to your possible location and leaves the rest to the complex behaviour tree of the xenomorph itself. You might even expect the xenomorph to cheat at points, to be teleporting around the map and knowing your exact location, but the developers confirmed that this is never the case outside of a few scripted scenes, as I mentioned before. This behaviour tree also expands as the game progresses, giving the illusion, and a very convincing one at that the xenomorph is learning about your playstyle. You prefer hiding in lockers? The xenomorph might just start investigating them a bit more closely. You like throwing noisemakers to distract it? The xenomorph might start to ignore them. The AI director also measures the tension in the game by assessing how much time you've spent near the xenomorph and whether or not it was visible to you. When tension is built to a certain amount for a given amount of time, the game director will tell the alien to back off. This created a rhythm of tension and relief that, combined with the unpredictability of the xenomorph, is a fantastically tense experience. I never felt settled. Not to mention that the xenomorph is incredibly deadly, and you aren't given many options to scare it off, and you certainly can't kill it. The options you are given are exceedingly rare, and you're then faced with the dilemma of using it or trying desperately to preserve it for a better opportunity. I do wish that the xenomorph spent a bit more time in stealth. Like I said before, the xenomorph will lay ambushes and stalk you, but it's also very easy to keep track of. It's loud and spends most of its time stomping around on the floor or banging around in the vents. It would have been cool to see it make use of crawling on all fours more often, and maybe sneaking around to try and find you. This would have allowed for some interesting stealth versus stealth gameplay and maybe made me less reliant on the sound and the motion tracker for a bit of a twist. Anyway, if the Xenomorph does reach you, it's over. You're dead. And if you're anything like me, you'll die lots of times. It can be frustrating in the beginning, having to learn how everything works and what sounds you should be listening for. This isn't helped by the fact that your save points are manual. There is no autosave. You can crawl perfectly through a section only to be caught out at the last moment and have to respawn at your last save, right the way back at the beginning. I did initially find this aggravating, I will admit, but it taught me the ways of the game better than any other alternative I can think of. Knowing that a misstep could mean certain death made me cautious and built so much tension with each encounter. I was terrified of having to take my eyes off of my surroundings to attempt to input a code into a keypad just in case I got the timing wrong. Similarly, every time I reached a save point and it wasn't showing any enemies nearby, I was overwhelmed with relief. The save system is a bold choice and some people won't like it, but it grew on me as I played for sure. The core gameplay loop will have you navigating Sevastopol Station, collecting tools and upgrades that allow you to traverse the new areas of the map, all whilst avoiding the many dangers present on the station, Xenomorph and otherwise. The items, tools and gadgets that you use can be crafted, and it becomes apparent that the game wants you to use these items as you'll find a lot more crafting material than I think you'll be expecting for this type of game. The crafting menu is a bit weird, and it makes it hard to craft multiple things quickly. To craft multiple medkits, for example, I needed to click 4 different buttons per medkit. Not exactly game breaking, but enough to irk me more than a few times. You'll also be presented with a fair few mini-games and interaction sequences to bypass locked doors, open vent systems, reroute power and cause distractions, all of which can be interrupted by enemies nearby. As I wrote the script for this video, it occurred to me how simple the gameplay loop is for the majority of the game. Usually go here, find X, bring it to Y, avoid enemies if you can. But the game executes this so well that it didn't really occur to me in-game. I think a mixture of tension, good level design, and a bunch of interesting mechanics woven into this gameplay loop meant that it didn't ever feel stale to me. There's a fair amount of backtracking to areas of the station you've already visited, however, albeit this time with new tools and objectives, but this is something people might find a bit boring or tedious. This isn't helped by the fact that the game is quite long too. It could easily have been about half as long and still be as effective. The current game length suffers from a couple of pacing issues, particularly in the latter half. On another note, I also didn't really care that much for the characters in the game. I don't know if it was down to the weird animations or what, but I was never really engaged with the story beyond the simple idea of escape from the Xenomorph. This was clearly enough to keep me entertained, but it could have been really interesting if the story explored Amanda Ripley's search for her mother a bit more, tying it into the films even further. The voice acting was solid though, and with most of the communication with NPCs being over the radio, this played to its strengths. In the end, I just didn't care that much, and it felt like a missed opportunity. All in all, this game is a fantastic experience, and I'd highly recommend picking it up on sale or not. It shows a few signs of aging at 8 years old at the time of this video, but the incredible and unique blend of AI, settings, sound and visuals makes this a treat to play, even for someone who cannot handle horror games. It really does make me resent what became of Colonial Marines though. I just wanted a co-op horror game set in the Alien universe where you play as the Colonial Marines, with the same level of tension and horror as this game. How hard can that be? Apparently very. Anyway, thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next one.